Hello everybody, my name is Elizabeth Pauliello. Gymnastics has always been a part of my life, whatever it is practicing, teaching, coaching or researching it. As a professor at the University of Campinas, Brazil, where I live, I had the opportunity to coordinate a gymnastic research group at the university, while also being the Gymnastic for All team coach for many years. This has given me the privilege of living gymnastics intensively, not only in Brazil but also worldwide, taking part in many gymnastics events, especially in several editions of the World Gymnastrada. I am very happy to be here today to present another FIG online seminar on the benefits of gymnastics. Actually, there are so many positive aspects in the practice of gymnastics to be highlighted that this seminar was divided into two parts, with the participation of two experts in each of them. In this seminar, we combine different perspectives based on scientific knowledge and the experiences of coaches and gymnasts. It is a group of experts from different regions who share a strong passion for gymnastics. To start this first part, we are pleased to present the contributions of Dr. Jean Krillers, a scientist from Canada, and Roberto Favini, an experienced gymnast from Switzerland. It's my great pleasure to introduce Professor Jean Krillers. He is a faculty member of the College of Rehabilitation Sciences in the Reid Faculty of Health Science in the University of Manitoba, Winnipeg, Canada. His research is devoted to physical literacy, and he works with a global research team. He is the original designer or contributor for many tools for assessing physical literacy. He's also currently a scientist at the Children's Hospital Research Institute of Manitoba and associate member of the Spinal Cord Research Center in Winnipeg. Throughout his career, Professor Krillers had the opportunity to work with athletes from different sports, develop programs from physical education teachers, as well as work as a consultant for various federations, including gymnastics federations. He is a prolific author of scientific papers that highlight the importance of sport for contemporary society.
Hello, I'm here to talk to you about gymnastics and its benefits, and I think one of the best ways to do that is through the lens of physical literacy. Physical literacy can be thought of as a process where we develop competence at the same time as confidence, and if we do that, it drives the motivation of the participant to continue participating. And certainly gymnastics works in two physical contexts, in both land and in air, but it also does a fantabulous job in working with development of participating in different social cultural contexts, performing for audiences, performing in front of team members, and performing in front of all abilities. So from the face value, gymnastics is quite good at activating this core cycle. So the idea is that in all the different disciplines of gymnastics, from tumbling to parkour to artistic to rhythmic, etc., we can definitely imagine that what we want for all of our participants is to turn a green light on this positive feedback cycle, because if we do that, we'll have continued participation of people and not drop out from the sport. And so what's really critical is to realize that what are we doing in gymnastics that works and makes this cycle turn green and stay green for people for life. Gymnastics is a wonderful opportunity to develop the foundational movement competencies for people, and in so doing, create confidence, motivation, and participation. One of the ways it does that is when you enter in gymnastics, there's different levels of ability of all the participants. And a neat thing about gymnastics is that there's always a level of challenge for all abilities. we know that if you provide a challenge for a certain group of people, they'll become engaged in wanting to get better. But if it's too easy, they're out. If it's too hard, it's not good either. So what's important here in gymnastics is that we create a level of challenge for all levels of ability. And indeed, that is quite true. When you enter into gymnastics as a participant, there are multiple levels to enter in at, and you can continue on that progression for life. So when everybody engages in a movement competency progression, there's some wonderful things that happen. When we engage this core cycle, we not only develop the physical abilities of the participants, but we also develop the psychological abilities like confidence. We develop their social skills, the ability to interact and respect others. And we even increase the creative ability of people so that they can learn how to be innovative and solve problems on their own. One of the core features of physical literacy is the interrelationship between movement competence and confidence. And if you think about that in every single coaching session that we have with a participant, we can find that as we concurrently develop their movement competency in whatever discipline they're involved in, and we help them to develop their confidence in their own way, we actually are building confidence of the individuals and not eroding it. So what's critical to that is that when you develop competence and confidence, in psychology theory, we call that self-competence, which is really inner trust. As a parent, I certainly want my children to believe in themselves, and that's quite a beautiful thing. And you can see in most of the gymnastic studios that I've been in, this wonderful inner trust developing in people. I believe in myself because I'm getting better and I'm feeling that I can do things that I never could do before. The other interesting thing about gymnastics is that there's a type of challenge for all interests. And people get bored over time and people like to change things. There's lots of disciplines within artistic gymnastics, and there's over 7 disciplines in gymnastics overall. That means that people can find themselves in gymnastics, independent of your interests. And that contributes to the sense of belonging. Because if we can develop connections to our equipment, connections to the gym, connections to the group that I train with, connections to the audience that I'm performing for, connections to objects, connections to other people. All of these things foster relationships. And we know that relatedness is a basic human need. And when one develops their movement voice in gymnastics, and our coaches help you develop it, and you use it to be expressed, and once you're accepted in your presentations, this creates relatedness and a sense of belonging, which is a vital thing. And gymnastics does it quite well in establishing a sense of belonging. How do we do this in gymnastics? I think we do it in coaching sessions and through the cultures that we create in our gyms by constructing positive challenges for people. I've put 2 papers on this slide. One is a paper which demonstrates that physical literacy is one of the best predictors of resilience, the ability to overcome adversity in children and youth. And Phil Jeffries, one of my colleagues, wrote a paper about what do positive challenges look like in movement contexts. I encourage you to read those 2 papers, because if you look at your coaching sessions and as a parent, you can see that in gymnastics, we are very good at constructing positive challenges for our participants. And as a result of that, we get to activate the physical literacy engine. And in so doing, we create further participation and ongoing performance excellence and participation excellence. So the notion here is that if we can construct positive challenges for all levels of ability for our participants, which then can allow them to develop not only physically, but develop psychologically, creatively, and socially. This is the most advanced physical literacy engine that we published in 2021 in the Frontiers in Psychology. I'm just going to talk you through this diagram as the final bits of my talk today. And I'm going to tell you that I think gymnastics does an excellent job at doing all features of this cycle. So, starting off with movement competence, children can develop lots of movement competencies on land and in air through gymnastics. And with good coaching practices, we can concurrently develop confidence with our competencies. And that, through a thing called self-determination theory, drives motivation to continue to participate. But you know what's really interesting? There's also some things that happen in gymnastics that is related to fun and enjoyment. Fun is in the moment. Am I having fun right now? Enjoyment is saying, hey, that was a pretty good training session. Hey, I really like that. I want to do that again. So we know that enjoyment and fun are really critical to drive motivation to continue. So let's never take the fun out of gymnastics. And even though we don't have smiles all the time because it can be pretty challenging, which is a good thing, we can look back upon that experience and see it as enjoyable. And finally, along the bottom of this diagram, you can see the word connectedness. And I've said that connectedness can happen in gymnastics through connections to people, to places like the gym, to groups, training teams, to audiences. There's a whole bunch of ways that people can develop connections in gymnastics, which drives a thing called relatedness, a basic human need. The more related you feel, the more motivated you are to continue to participate. And you know what? In our training sessions, if children are allowed to problem solve and decision make for themselves, in addition to being told how to train, but exploring how to train, they become autonomous, which means they believe in their own destiny. They become the agent of their own abilities. So if you look at this diagram, it's a bunch of positive feedback cycles that drive motivation. And I think gymnastics does an excellent job at making this cycle work very effectively. So quality gymnastics activates the physical literacy cycle, which, as I've illustrated to you here, can benefit the whole person, not just in their technical skills, but in their psychology, in their social well-being, and even their creative abilities.
Thank you very much, Professor Tim Krillers, for such a nice presentation. Now, I would like to introduce Mr. Roberto Favini from Switzerland. Mr. Roberto Favini has participated as a member of all Gymnastrada commissions since 1982 in Zurich, combining his experience as manager, coach, and gymnast for decades, and being able to observe how gymnastics has been developing and contributing to our society.
As a young man, young with his family, there were other times we often went to the mountains, to the lake, and had fun in nature. There were no cell phones or other devil dry. We played with nature. A mount became a springboard. An inclined plane was used for somersault. The farmer's fence became a bar. In short, everything made us do gymnastics. We grew older and we became more and more passionate about it. The gyms, where they existed, were little more than 20 x 15 rectangle, perhaps with two central pillars to support the ceiling. The hard mats filled with sand. It was forbidden to make mistakes, otherwise there were pains. Fortunately, the places to exercise have improved today. They look like real technical laboratories. Once I remember that the monitors gave us joy, we had fun, and at the same time we learned technical parts. After each lesson, I remember the muscle burn from the effort or from the blow received in the landings on those hard carpets. We consulted each other and planned to return next week. In the locker room, we exchanged impressions and methods to succeed in a given exercise. There were no stars, we were all friends, and we all suffered from the same disease. Pleasure and joy in gymnastics have never failed. Then, over time, my work commitment led me to decrease my activity as an active one dedicating myself more to education. New sensation and unforgettable experiences. Stimulating to see their gymnasts leave the gym happy. They greet you saying, "See you next week. Thanks, teacher. Bye, Robbie." Seeing the technical progress of the gymnast and knowing that they had fun and wanted to return was gratifying. Captivating to hear the young athlete who, in a low voice, almost as if it were a secret, tells you, "You know, your mother told me that once you were a teacher." Even my aunt echoes the little friends. "She told me that you were her first monitor." Nice to know they remember you. It all started in the 70s. Back in Ticino, here the opportunity to find fertile ground in Torricella Taverne to set up the gymnastic company. It begins with a handful of young people who later increased, and in 1975 the Gymnastics Society Torricella Taverne Vedano was established, which later became the Federal Gymnastics Society for Valle del Veneto. How many memories! The first conference, this is how gymnastic meetings were called at the time. There are still close ties with friendship of the time. In 1982 in Zurich, I took part, but only as a spectator, with the Ticino Cantonal Gymnastic Association at my first Gimnastrada. What a show, what a passion! And here is the idea of joining the HCTG technical team. Indelible memories, Herning, Amsterdam, Berlin 1995, 6 years after the fall of the wall in 1989. It was interesting to know and live for over a week, not only with the gymnasts and the employees of the Gimnastrada, but in close contact with the population of the different cities, in particular in Berlin, with a population that expatriated from the former GDR, which until a few years before did not have great freedom. They were very interested in our business and asked if they could get tickets to attend national shows. After 4 years as a technical collaborator, I am offered to join in the Swiss Gymnastic Federation as the head of the local transport and provisions group. As the years went by, I became vice-president of the Ticino Cantonal Gymnastic Association, group leader, and then vice-president of the Gymnastrada Logistic Commission. Interest and friendship still bind me a lot, and that of 2023 in Amsterdam will be my 11th Gymnastrada. Precious experiences have introduced me to important European capitals. Beautiful memories. 41 years have passed, and I'm here to tell the beautiful experience and the wonderful memories collected in the gymnastic world. You may wonder if it has always been so beautiful. I can confirm that what has been told corresponds to reality. The shows have exalted me, and friendship and collaborators, I always remember them with pleasure. Even today, I train young gymnasts on a daily basis, and I try to pass on them all the beautiful experiences I have lived over the years. Satisfaction is then at its peak when, in the gym, one of your gymnasts calls you grandfather.
Non vorrei lasciare qualche lacrima, però una piccola, un po' commosso ci sono.
Can you show me how to do the somersault? And yes, if on one hand you feel elderly, on the other you get excited. The little 7-year-old granddaughter wants to see and learn from her grandfather and tells her friends about him. Seeing your athletes now grown up who are now responsible instructor is very rewarding. The countless emotions satisfy you very much, but over the years I've lost dear friends. Mauro Giannini, former technician of the Cantonal Gymnastic Association, with I collaborated on a technical and administrative level for about 10 years. I don't think I ever revealed anything new to you. With this, however, I want to invite young people who listen to me to continue practicing sports, in particular the discipline of gymnastics, which is certainly one of the oldest disciplines. It trains elasticity, coordination, strength, does not neglect the mind by creating contact and friendship. Even in this pandemic period, always following COVID prescription, we train and managed to keep in touch for what little we could. We have entertained young people who now more than ever need to get together, to be with their peers. What we propose is a sport where we rarely find a star who earns millions. With gymnastics you may succeed impossible, or maybe you have difficulties, but you always feel free, excited and stimulated. Even in our discipline there is no discouragement for having thrown a race to the wind, and we are left alone to suffer and manage emotions. Someone defined our activity as a gymnastic is like an angel. Certainly, at the end of the race or after training, everything dissolves in a cloud of magnesium and you are ready to start again, aware and stronger than before.
Ciao, grazie di avermi ascoltato.
Thank you very much, Roberto. Your words fill us with hope and strengthen our belief of the benefits of gymnastics for individual and social development. Both presentations highlight the importance of gymnastics and of continuing to work to better educate all the stakeholders. These different approaches certainly enrich our knowledge about gymnastics and inspire us to keep working to promote good practices in gymnastics. So thanks both our experts for their great contribution to the FIG online seminar, and I invite you all to join the second part of the seminar, which will be available very soon, with the participation of two other experts, Mr. Manu Rana from India and Mr. Chris Muchatuta from Zimbabwe. Thank you very much for your attention.